Hello and welcome to Intelligent Gentlemen. I am your host, Milt Walker, and this show is about being the man, what it takes to be a man in today's day and age, all the good, the bad, and our quest for continuous improvement and learning, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. And I'm really excited about starting this, and I really appreciate all of you who have started listening so far. Welcome to the first episode, and I hope you enjoy. I would like to thank you again for tuning in and listening to the first ever Intelligent Gentleman hosted by Milt Walker. And I'm really excited about this, and I really hope that you guys and gals get something out of this, and I'm able to give something positive back to the world through sharing and growth, because that's what I'm all about. So without further ado, let's get into our first topic, which will be positive thinking. Positive thinking. I want to start off with a quote. A bad attitude is like a flat tire. You can't go anywhere until you change it. Now, you see that floating around on social media. You hear a lot of people say it, but what does it mean? What does that mean? A bad attitude is like a flat tire. You can't go anywhere until you change it. Let's talk a little bit about that. Okay. I was blessed to come in contact with an activist, black rights activist that's been operating in my hometown for years, and actually taught classes that I had to attend because I had some behavioral problems back when I was young, in middle school, I believe it was. And since then, I've come to the realization that everything is a choice, from when you wake up in the morning, how you want to look at the day, to when you go to sleep at night, how well you're going to rest, right? And in between, there's a lot of things. And over the course of this series, we'll explore a lot of it. But first, we're going to start off with where us as human beings, our experience starts, which is thinking, right? In the mind, the thought. And we're going to talk about positive thinking. Okay. And so first off, personal power. You control what happens to you. You control what happens to you. All right. That's your personal power. That's something that no one can take away from you. Right. I always use an example, and it's kind of on the extreme side, saying that, even if someone is threatening you to do something or else, you still have a choice. You have a choice. And in my experience, different people see that differently. Some people don't see a choice, because survival is the only option for them. But in history and in my experience, there's always a choice. You're always able to decide how your next step will progress. All right. And that's the power of positive thinking. It actually enables you, personal power. It enables you to be able to go forward through whatever might happen to you, and get you through it, right? So going back to that quote, that we were talking about, a bad attitude is like a flat tire. You can't go anywhere until you change it, right? That's your personal power. You have to decide to change it first, right? You have to decide that. Once you make the decision that you know what, I'm going to change this tire, then you do it and you start moving, right? So also, I want to kind of talk a little bit about self-esteem. Self-esteem is very important, especially in the developmental stages, for a person to develop self-esteem for themselves, and for that to translate into a positive way, right? Because we think about positive thinking. We're not talking about, being prideful. We're talking about having pride, but not being prideful, right? So your self-esteem, know your worth. Do you know your worth? Do you know that you're actually priceless? Do you know that your contributions to your community, to your city, to your state, to your country, to your world, right? Is priceless, and it's all about how you choose to live your life. And there's something beautiful about that when you understand that, when you know that, hey, I can decide, personal power. I can decide how I want to live my life. I don't have to just be like what my environment is, right? I can just choose to be different. Once you understand that, it's very powerful. It's very powerful. Know your worth. You got to know your worth. And your worth is only determined by your action. So if you don't decide to take action, then you won't have any worth. And that just means that you don't know your worth. Okay? And so self-esteem is very important, people. We gotta have a self-esteem. We gotta have esteem for ourselves, right? We gotta hold each other in esteem, but we need to hold ourselves in esteem as well. We look at, celebrities, we look at models, we look at entertainers, we look at all of these people, these prominent people, politicians, all of these different people who may hold these positions of power that's in the spotlight and in the limelight and so on and so forth. We hold them in esteem. We hold people with a lot of money in esteem, but you need to hold yourself in esteem as well. You need to hold yourself up. It's one thing I used to always walk around and tell all of my friends, as we're hanging out around in the hood, I'm telling them, I'm like, I don't care who they are. This is just in the course of conversation, and we may be talking about anything, but I don't care who they are. They're just a person just like me. I don't fear anybody but God. That's my mentality. That's been my mentality. That's how I feel about it. And so when you understand that, when you understand your worth, then no matter what a person may have or what type of position they may hold in life, you never see them as above you. There was a quote from a yogi scholar, Sadhguru, and he said that this is what he told his daughter about such things. He said, whatever you do in life, don't look up to people and don't look down on people. Meaning, just simply see people as they are. Don't look up to people and don't look down on people. because you're not better than them and they're not better than you. Okay? Know your worth. Self-esteem. Moving to the next topic that I wanted to kind of discuss a little bit. And again, these topics are real deep topics. It's something that we can talk about for a long time, but I want to try to keep it, simple and to the point here. So, sense of purpose, positive thinking, right? That's the name of this theme of this segment here. Sense of purpose. You got to have a sense of purpose. Your life has a purpose. Part of the fun in life is finding out what your purpose is. What does it mean? Why would you say that? Why is that fun? How is that fun when you don't know where you're going? It's fun because you get to experience life in the process. You experience life. You go out, you try new things. And remember, we're talking about positive thinking. We're talking about true positive thinking. We're not talking about trying drugs. We're not talking about trying alcohol. We're not talking about trying to see how many women you can sleep with or how many men you can sleep with. That's not what we're talking about. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about going out and trying different things in life to find out what your purpose is, right? Where do you fit in the universal scheme of things? And it's real easy. I'll tell you a story. I say it's real easy, but it's one of the most hardest things for people to do. I'll tell you a story. I was in a management position and going through the normal course of business, talking to some of my employees and just making sure the mood and the atmosphere at work was positive and making sure that everybody is contributing to the success of the team, right? So I'm just out talking to people and doing my thing. Had to come over to one area. It was in a store, and so there was a jewelry section, and so I had to go over there to check in some jewelry. And so in the course of checking in the jewelry, I see a mood ring. Now, this is not one of your Cracker Jack box, I got this prize at McDonald's type of mood rings, right? This is an actual mood ring that a jeweler created using a stone that many consider to be one that can tell moods, right? And so, I've always known about such things, but I've never really kind of dove into it. So it was kind of interesting to me to see it and to actually try it, because I was like, well, hey, can't hurt. Let me see what what it says about my mood, right? What does it say about me, right? And so the associate that was there was like, hey, yeah, why not try it? And so of course it was a women's ring. It was a woman's ring, so it could only fit on my pinky. And so I put it on my pinky, and I started reading the card that came with it. And it was telling you what all the different colors that it turns into, what it would mean if it became that color. And so as I'm reading this and I'm reading all the different things that it's saying, I'm saying, oh, okay, that's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. I wonder which one it's going to be for me. And so with that, again, going back and just want to remind you what we're talking about, sense of purpose, right? I had been struggling that day. And it's interesting how the universe works like that. I had been struggling that day, and it wasn't because I was tired. It wasn't because I didn't want to be there. It wasn't because of any of the negative things that people would say when they feel like they're struggling at work. It was because I was always, trying to bring positive change in my environment, always. And so there were some forces there that were working against me. Some of them were on the same level that I was. So it was a tidal force, right? It was a push and a pull. There was some moments where, it got pretty intense, but again, my resolve has been to be a positive influence on the universe ever since I made it. Doesn't mean I don't make mistakes. It just means that, ultimately that's the decision I'm going to choose, right? So I have been struggling that day, like, man, am I really having an impact? Am I really accomplishing what I'm trying to do? And so in that course, I had spoke with one of our elders, in the community. And, just out of the blue, she says to me, hey, I just want to tell you, I appreciate everything you do to keep a positive environment for us. Wow. Mind blown, right? Wow. You don't hear that often. And when you do hear it, a lot of times, you kind of look at the person and it's kind of like, okay, are they just saying that or do they actually mean it, right? But no, this person, like I said, she was an elder and she didn't mealy mouth. She didn't beat around the bush. She wasn't playing. She meant what she said. And I knew that because we've had conversations about different issues and stuff like that I've addressed for her and, that we kind of had to get resolved and so on and so forth. So I knew she meant it, right? So it had a profound impact on me to kind of re-energize me as to what my purpose was, right? Going back to sense of purpose. So I had it re-energized my sense of purpose. Now I'm going to come back to the ring. So at that point, I'm re-energized. I'm going about my business and, here comes this ring. And so I have it on my pinky and I'm thinking it's been on there long enough to change colors. I'm kind of dramatic like that. I like to paint a scene. And so, I'm letting it change colors. And so, I turn it over. I look at the color. I'm like, okay. So I look back at the card to see what it means. The color was like a lavender color, right? It was like a real lavender color. So I'm thinking to myself, I wonder what that means, right? So I look on the back and it says clarity, right? Wow. Talk about reading the signs, right? I literally was reading this. And so talk about reading the signs. I read that and my mind was instantly humbled, in shock and awe. All of those different descriptions that just let you know that there is something greater, right? And so at that moment, I had clarity. And I knew that because I had obtained that clarity, that I was going to be okay. Okay. So the sense of purpose, your life has a purpose. Once you reach that, once you know, you know what, and just to kind of give you guys what the secret of the universe for me was at that moment was I was put here to help people. I mean, it's really just that simple, and one can say that about everybody, right? One can say that about everybody, but you can get, it's so profound that you can get even more in depth into it, right? You can get more depth out of it. You just have to meditate and you have to study and you have to live and you experience life. And that goes back to what we were talking about experiencing life, right? Go out and experience. That was one experience, right? It was actually an experience I said I would never do in my life. Ended up doing it and becoming very great at it, right? I reached a peak of success in less time than the average person does in that field. Okay. And it wasn't even my field of study. The only thing that was the same between all of it was the fact that I love to help people. And it's always been that way with me, right? Always been that way with me. And we'll get into more about me at a later time. But I just wanted to give y'all some content. I want to give y'all some tangible evidence that this is going to be something that's going to be beneficial to you, right? And so, with that sense of purpose comes a lot of confidence. It comes a lot of direction, right? Because ultimately, you know what your purpose is. And so when people try to sway you or try to say something about you or this and that and the third, you have that anchor. It's an anchor. You have that anchor to keep you there and say, no, that's not me. I know who I am. I know what I'm here for. So nobody can tell me that. There's nothing you can tell me, which resonates very, very much with our communities because that's one of our problems. We go here and there, we move in with the wind, right? Anybody tells us this, oh, we're going over there, we're doing this, and we're doing this. But if you had that anchor, right, it would keep you from doing that, okay? And so on to the next one. You got to have a positive view of your personal future. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Not where do you want to be? Because when you ask that question, where do you want to be? Most people think about what other people think too. It's a natural reaction, but it doesn't really get to the point, right? A positive view of your personal future is what you need to have. You should have an optimistic view of your future. You should be able to look at your future and say, man, I'm doing good now, but in 5 years, I know I'm going to be doing better. Why? Because your personal power, your self-esteem, and your sense of purpose will all be that direction, anchor, and energy to get you to that future. That's the point of this. Positive thinking, right? What does it do for you? It changes that flat tire into a fully functioning tire, and it gets you back on the road. What road? Your road to manhood, your road to success, whatever road you choose to travel, and some that we don't really have a choice. We just have a choice as to how soon we get there and in what condition we are in when we do, right? So you got to have a positive personal view, positive view of your personal future in order for you to get to where you're going, right? I can't get in the car and just keep driving and expect I'm going to get somewhere, but it might not be where I'm trying to go. So I need to have a positive view of my personal future to get me to where I'm trying to go, right? That's what ties it all together. That's what glues it all in. That's what makes it all work. And so, in conclusion, bringing it back to the quote, a bad attitude is like a flat tire. You can't go anywhere until you change it. Your attitude, that's your thinking. That's how you express your thought, right? It can be in a facial expression. It could be in the tone of your voice. It could be in the pep in your step. If you decide, man, I don't want to do this today. You're going to be dragging. Your feet going to be dragging. Your whole attitude's going to be off. You're just going to be like, man, I really don't want to even. But you didn't even know that this was the day that they were evaluating people for that new position that was opening up because one of the board members was getting ready to retire, and they didn't let nobody know because they wanted to pick the successor before they did let somebody know. You never know what's going on. So you always have to maintain your positive thinking, right? It affects those around you. And as a man, that's something that's important to you. It's important to you how you affect your environment. It's important to you about how people feel about your presence, right? That's why when you're in somebody's presence and you don't feel like you want it, that's why you want to move. That's why you want to go. Because that's not where you're trying to be. You're not trying to do that. I would like to thank everybody for listening and tuning in. And I hope that it's something that can give you value in your life and definitely help you to move along on your journey and share it with somebody else. I'm all about that. And so with that, I am going to say goodbye, and we're going to see you on the next one. Thank you for listening. Take care.